This is Hot Mic.
Hot Mic.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
I think just like Dom's outfit, they're not always pretty. Sometimes they're really ugly. But
Just been all over Amazon and just about every site looking for these mustard pants. And
my wife will tell you she wants to burn mine.
People actually listen to your show.
They watch.
They
I
watch
told
it.
you. Yeah.
play defense in that first half like Dom transitions to you after the game. It's way too long, way too lazy. But
You got all these answers. I'm going to bring you over and have you do our non-conference schedule.
I'd love to. I'd love to go to Grand Canyon,
I would
man.
love.
Hey,
well,
you're
you
doing
can
that
come with.
game.
That's not the thing.
I love when you're on Dom. You're so transparent. And I'm like, so two things are happening. That one, people are watching your show,
Yes,
listening.
yes.
Right? That
Yep.
caught me a little off guard. I'm just being honest.
People are watching our show as we welcome you back on a Wednesday morning. North Dakota State men's basketball head coach Dave Richman joins us. Hey, 10:02. That's not bad, right? That's okay, right? It's not 10:06, right?
No. Like, just because it's less worse doesn't make it good. It's not Bison time.
Oh, hey, 100 points again? Like, what? This is
Oh,
like
look at that. Changing the subject really quick. Changing the subject.
I only have a certain amount of time with you. I'm not going to waste it on that. Come on here.
You would be wasting valuable time on me.
You're like the Denver Nuggets of the 1980s here, just jacking threes and making you scoring 100 points. You got
I got a Showtime Lakers text from somebody too the other day.
More importantly, you held USD to 70. That's what you got to be really excited about, I imagine.
Yeah, no. I mean, we talked about it to our guys. The quick turnaround and some travel, and some whiteout travel on Friday made for some interesting road time. Yeah, but very, very pleased with our guys. Obviously, I do trust the old Dave Richman. I do think there's a better version of us out there defensively, but. We stressed to our guys this USD team that had not been beaten at home this year and had been scoring 90 plus at home. And, we held them to 77, I believe, and got a victory and a convincing victory. I'm very, very proud of the guys. And they handled some, the adversity. We talked about no excuses. And USD plays a crazy different style. And so within the short prep, you're trying to get your guys locked in for that. But all in all, a good victory, and definitely still plenty of things to learn off of and build off of that game.
Was that almost A to Z from the matchup with Kansas City in terms of prep to then going to South Dakota?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess I never really thought about it like that, but you're 100% right. Where I just said that Dom Izzo is 100% right. Gosh.
First time for everything. There we go.
It's my wife's fault. My wife's fault. We didn't have coffee filters this morning, so I didn't have coffee until later.
Oh, you're all off now. Is that it?
I'm off.
Got it.
But yeah, no, you're right. Kansas City that was a slugfest. I mean, we've shed more blood this year. I tell you what,
No
Mason
doubt.
Miller.
Yes.
I mean, Mason Miller he was bleeding on Saturday again. But there, you go back to Thursday night where. It takes what it takes on a particular night, and our guys were locked in. That was a physical battle, but we played that entire 40 minutes and only fouled 8 times. And I say that as a proud coach from a standpoint. You asked them to be tough, you asked them to be together, and fouling is a hands in, right? It's a protective, insecure way. Like if you're going to guard without fouling, so your hands are outside your body. That means you're going to take some things in the chin, the chest, the nose, and our guys are, they're sacrificing a lot, and very, very proud of them.
To have almost like a professional kind of schedule there as well. I think we talked about that last week. Home, then got to go and travel for your next game. That's not like usual. You're used to we're going to play 2 at home and 2 on the road. Obviously you played well enough to win, but how did you feel you adjusted for that as well?
Luke Strege and I went on the road recruiting yesterday. We were having a conversation, and your JUCO kids are getting another year. You're 5 years across the board. You got NIL, you got portal, and it's just you just kind of succumb to the fact of, all right, at some point, please give me the parameters, and within those parameters, we're going to try to make it work the best we can, right? So it's a little bit like scheduling right now in a 9-team league. Okay, just tell me what it is, and that's why. That's why I was proud of the guys on Saturday. I think it was the best version of us defensively. No, absolutely not. We got to get better, finishing possessions, absolutely. But quick turnaround, bad travel, really poor hotel eggs Saturday morning. Actually, they were Hy-Vee eggs. They weren't
Oh,
really eggs. They were
oh.
more like just bake. Ugh, I passed.
I,
That's the difference.
I don't
I
blame
love
you.
breakfast.
I don't blame you one bit. Yeah.
I love breakfast too,
Yeah.
Dom.
Yeah.
But we found a way. Yeah, absolutely.
And now the flip side of that is now you don't play for a week, which again, I know it's the parameters of the schedule, but how do you adjust for that this week? Have schedule wise or practice wise, how have you gone about that to get ready for Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, start with the end in mind. So we do really like our 3-day prep routine, and it's been helpful from how we gear that, set those things up, and the practice templates. But it was also nice. We had a couple guys with just it's that time of year with some nicks and bumps and bruises, and obviously some broken bones and blood and all that. Like so, Sunday was an off day like normal. Monday, Coach Miller lifted them a little bit. We watched a little bit of video and just did some shooting because we didn't want to give them, 3 days fully off. Yesterday they were off, but it worked out well. From the time we were done on Monday until the time that we'll go this afternoon, it's 48 hours, and that is one thing that I have learned. Anytime during the season that you can give your guys 2 full days off, I think it's really healthy. And Coach Strege was talking to me yesterday. I think 19 of the top 20 teams lost last week or something like that. And you get into late January, February, and you hear about this, the dog days of college basketball. It's an excuse, right? I mean, these games are all going to add up and they're still going to count the same. But I do think this time for us, we're about ready to go smack right in the middle of the tunnel, right? Where it's pretty dark in those dog days. But this game still means the same as the first one of the league, last one of the league, and so we've got to make sure we've got that focus. And I think these couple days can, give us just a little bit of a recharge too as we head into. We're not quite halfway, but getting close to that.
Jakari White, Dave, was back to what we saw. Butler kind of crazy with the game he had on Saturday. I would guess message received from what you guys did a couple weeks ago, but that kind of shooting performance when you just as a basketball fan, I know you're coaching, but when you step back and watch the tape on that, what do you take away when you see a guy as hot as he was on Saturday?
Yeah, it's such an interesting point too, because when you're coaching that, and even the Butler game, you don't really realize like, wow, this is pretty good. This is pretty impressive, right? It's the good and bad of coaching. It's like, all right, we don't get like Tim Polasek. We can't huddle and celebrate, right? You got to go right back and play defense. We can't sub in 11 new guys, in the football world. But so you're focused on the next, and you go back and watch it. And let me just stop, vomiting all that stuff. Let me just talk about Jakari and just how proud I am of him. Like the young man's come from plenty of adversity, and he's learned. I really think by watering his roots here and then growing up, here and maturing in a lot of ways, he's learned to battle adversity. And make no mistake, like things changed for him a little bit coming out of that Butler game, and he might have thought this, he might have had this thought or whatever. And like the reality is it's really hard this day and age to just be present, to be focused, and realize like me being present and focused is a pretty darn good thing. And going back to that of just, hey, here's what I had been doing. Here's what coaches have been telling me. This is working pretty good. How about I just continue to do that and not listen to the outside noise? We talk like it hit really hard. Like after the Santa Clara win, like there's a circle. So after we play a game, win or lose, my mom and dad text me, right? They tell me they love me, right? That's a pretty cool deal. All right, now you beat Santa Clara, you beat Butler, you do all these things, and there's a lot more text, okay? And we just talk, and there's nothing wrong with a lot more text. I enjoy it, the guys do, but it's really about who was with you, from the very start in those times. And yeah, I mean, it's just I do think we're a different level team when Jakari's like that.
And you have Jackson doing what he's doing. Anecdotally, by the way, how many times do coaches just, I'm sure you want to pull your hair out. It's happened to your team, though, where I've seen at least 5 or 6 times where a guy's been fouled shooting a 3, and you guys more often than not make them. I mean, is that the most frustrating as an opposing coach, right? It got to be the most frustrating thing ever.
I think in the second half, I think we had like I don't know if it was 3 straight possessions, but it was in a 3 or 4 minute window.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're exactly right, and it's such a fine line with the way our guys shoot it. I'm sure Petey, he's wanting them to be out there and contest and to be urgent in those contests, but I mean, that little window
Right.
of contesting versus being in the cylinder is pretty tight, and you got to walk that. But and I know I think you and Steeman have been talking about that on air. I've heard you a couple times. We might be averaging about one of those a game.
It's amazing. Just crazy on that. We have not talked enough, in my mind, on to Javis Miller in your weekly segments and where the roller coaster ride has been for him this year, and now to really carve out a role. And what last week, Dave, I thought typified that, what he did defensively with a couple of big blocks, and then Saturday he has a thunder dunk late in the first half in Vermilion. What is this role carved out? How did you have that conversation with him to say, this is your third year here, you may expect to be starting, but we see your value here?
Yeah, I got goosebumps right now, and you can't see it through the Zoom here, but I mean, again, transparent Dave Richman, Javis has had his moments, right, of struggle
Yeah.
at times, and there has been some things that he's need to mature on. But like that's the same as me and you when we were 18 to 22. We weren't perfect, and nobody's perfect. Like we're all sinners in all those things. And Javis is I think there's just been a greater understanding between the two of us from a standpoint of I do know what Javis does care about immensely, and that's this team and that's his teammates. And there's been moments of learning how to coach Javis in certain moments in certain situations because it's a very talented young man who is a tremendous person. And finding that balance of what's right, what's wrong, what buttons to push and when to push them, and for him to just not take some things so literally, but then to be able to move on a little bit. And I love that you're asking the question. We're starting to, rightfully so, we're starting to get the question more, hey, to Javis Miller, and we should. I mean, he could easily be starting very easily. And we even talked about it when we didn't start Jakari for that game.
Yeah.
But I think he's very comfortable in that role. And for me, and for our staff, as we're doing subbings and rotations, the versatility that he has at the 2, 3, and 4 is just a luxury. And so now you talk about a foul trouble or somebody not playing well, you can just pop him in there and he's ready to go. He's a very intelligent young man. He picks up on things quick, and that shows his versatility on both ends of the floor.
The fact that 2 years ago, we were talking, you and I, in Sioux Falls, where he has that block to win you a game, a postseason game. I mean, he's gone through everything that I imagine your conversations are about as frank as they can be, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Like nobody loves that kid more than I do. Nobody's gotten more gray hair because of him than I have. And it's funny, we were just talking about this as a staff with some things where, the portal age is a premium in college basketball, right? And you're seeing that with us. You got to find ways, and there's a balance between bringing some guys up and then bringing some guys in and marrying that whole thing together. And a lot of times, especially now in the portal or shorter windows, you don't have a whole bunch of window or opportunity to change behavior, right? But and I say this as a tremendous compliment by them embracing us, but you look at Tyson and you look at Tyson Ward, you look at Jakari, you're looking at Javis now, where the roots thing, right? Where you maybe don't fully trust some things and those seeds are just barely in there, but let me just stick around a little longer. And as it grows deeper below, things start to blossom above. I mean, and it's such a fun, rewarding deal to see.
To have Andy Stefanowicz play as much as he had, his minutes have gone up, and I talked to you about him post-game after the Kansas City game where he might not be flashing scoring, although he made a big 3 for you in the game in Vermilion on Saturday. He is making passes to guys in the right spots. He's setting guys up. You can't coach that, I'm assuming, right?
No, and I mean he's just been tremendous on the offensive end of the floor. He actually made 2 threes in the Vermilion game. He hit one in the corner in the first half, and then a right wing one in the second half. And I think that's been that next step for him to continue to be a threat offensively because just his vision, his IQ to see the floor and to get others involved, and the pace that he plays with is terrific. And he's a tough kid. He's a competitor. He might be a little slight in the britches. He's not very big from a strength standpoint, but he battles, he competes, and it's nice. I mean, what can we say about Brennan, right? Like everything that
No.
he's done and battled through and his toughness. But, to have that luxury a little bit to, at times or moments get Brennan off the floor, things like that. It's a nice little 1-2, and they're different too. They're different in the pace and in some of their style of play things, which I think, is good for us to throw at opponents.
Let's break. We come back. We'll chat about the matchup on Saturday. Big crowd, hopefully, going to be at the Shack for the doubleheader against North Dakota. More with Dave Richman on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic right after this. Final segment on this Wednesday morning on our Bison Media Zone show coming up in about 10 minutes. A few more minutes we spend with Bison head coach Dave Richman. NDSU will host North Dakota coming up Saturday. Straight doubleheader. One ticket gets you in. Somebody's listening to me finally. 1 o'clock for the women's game, and then the men's game tips at 4. It was a great atmosphere last year, Dave. I would imagine it's a Saturday afternoon. What else are you doing? Coming to the game. It should be a dynamite atmosphere again on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean the Dom Izzo show is not on at that point, so there can't be anybody else doing anything else.
Right? Come on. But I got an email, by the way, to say, will Dave come out at halftime for the Frisbee Dogs? There's Frisbee Dogs at halftime. You're not doing anything at halftime. Why not?
What are they saying? Like I'm a dog catching frisbees?
No,
Or no?
yeah.
I'm listening to the community too, or like I'm trying to continue to be a better version of myself and smile and do some of those things once in a while. No, but I'm not changing for the games. So
I did get I did get an email last week about your suit on Thursday because someone said, "Well, Dave gives you a hard time about the mustard pants. Were you wearing like velour last Thursday night?"
What is velour?
I don't know. Like when you had like a purple suit on or something, didn't you?
It's maroon. Maroon.
It's
And,
a Halberstadt special. I know that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But then the accessories with the white belt too, it makes it pop. Makes it pop. You wouldn't know anything about that.
No, I don't. That's exactly right. That's exactly
You would
right.
have the sweats putting on a white belt with those mustard pants.
No comment. Let's talk about this game coming up on Saturday. We mentioned it's the one game you have this week. UND has already played a couple of high majors. What stands out when you watch them and what Paul's team is bringing in? And granted, they play tomorrow night. They got a game with South Dakota tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and I obviously watched that Alabama game. Trace and Eagle staff can really go. Their point guard, I'm extremely impressed with him. Just his toughness. And I've always had a ton of respect for Paul. Like Paul knows winning. He's done a really good job. Like you said, like they're competing. They've got the right parts. It's gonna be a challenge. It is. Like I'm not gonna shy away from it here and address it with the guys. This is a rivalry game and in state. There's two different shades of green in the state. We know and we understand that there's just a one mark. Hopefully it's in the left column, not the right column, but no matter what, it's a one mark game for us. But we also understand the premise of our program is servant leadership. And this game means a lot to a lot of people. And we need to have a great week of prep to do our part and be ready to go at 4 p.m., which to your point, Jory and his ladies are playing terrific. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity to see some really good basketball for multiple hours on Saturday afternoon.
I know it's not one thing, Dave, but after the two home losses, now you've ripped off 4 in a row. Can you point to one or two things that you've done really well in this win streak?
Just gone back to what we were doing. Just really having the ball pop offensively and a higher level of engagement and understanding defensively and just settling back in and realizing that who we are. Like I heard something the other day, like there's a belief. This team's got a great belief. Then there is the brotherhood. This team is really, really tight and together. And then the last thing is just to be you. And we have enough character. We have enough talent for us to just simply be us. And I think sometimes you think you need to do something different. I always say this in recruiting. You go out in July and you watch some really crappy basketball because Division I coaches sit down and the games just go to trash because kids start thinking they need to do all these things to impress us. And you can impress your coach currently, you can impress the coaches in the summer by just, starring in your role, excelling in the things that you do well, the fundamentals of basketball, being a great teammate and all those things. And that's a really cool part about this team is we can just be us and have a high level of success. But we've also proven that if we slide from us, and we're going to have weekends like we did to open up the conference play.
Last thing before I let you go. Yesterday was the 19-year anniversary of the North Dakota State win at Wisconsin. I tweeted that video out yesterday. Can you Tim Miles actually chimed on it yesterday as well. Where do you remember and what do you remember about that day?
Tim actually sent a little group thing, and he sent me, I think it was actually your tweet. He sent it to Saul and I as well. But I mean, great day. Here's what I remember is what nobody remembers is 48 hours earlier, we got beat at Utah Valley. And then we traveled in a winter snowstorm. And then the next day at practice, we were wondering, what should we do? I'm like, we need to go after these guys. We need to challenge them a little bit, And then Saul always talked about the dream he had the night before of us. Maybe we're not going to score. It was all those things, man. It was a really cool moment. And it kind of epitomized Tim where, he was just, bring on the competition and it's such a great experience for me, right? And you go into every game, with those expectations. And our guys certainly made some big time winning plays. And the other thing, it was an early game.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time you're thinking, all right, this is going to be bad. It's going to be score is going to be on repeat all day. Well, it'll be an awesome thing, right? That win was on repeat all day.
The era of the baggy shorts, I'm glad we retired that. That's not a great basketball look. No?
Hey, be careful. Be careful. Javis is starting to go back the other way. I've started to see it a little bit. And I just finally got comfortable with showing my knees. What do they call? Used to call those jammers or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm Fab 5 stuff. That was I couldn't have big enough in my high school days.
Oh man, it's great to see you as always. Thanks for the time. I'll see you at practice later and on Saturday at the game.
I will send you Tim Halverstad's number and you can grab that white belt.
2 of them. I'll take 2. How about that?
What do you need 2 for?
You lose 1. There you go. Always good to have more. Thanks, bud. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, brother.
There he goes. Dave Richman joins us each and every Wednesday. Bison and UND. Again, it's a double dip. 1 o'clock for the women, 4 o'clock for the men. We'll be on between games as well. You'll see it all live on WDAY Extra coming up Saturday afternoon. Looking forward to that. Before we hit our Bison Media Zone, we got to do some what to watch before we get out of here. All right, the Bison women play tonight. It's a full night of Summit League women's games. We got 4 games tonight. North Dakota State takes on South Dakota, 7 o'clock. Midcoast Sports Plus has that. Bison off a bad loss. I'll say a bad loss against Kansas City. They didn't score a basket in the fourth quarter. We'll see how they fare against Grace Larkins and USD, leading with UND coming up on Saturday. Full highlights of that reaction coming up on the show tomorrow because Jory Collins will join us tomorrow. The Timberwolves take on the Luka-less Mavericks, 6:30 tonight on ESPN. After that bad loss in Memphis, we'll see how the Wolves fare tonight. They're going to have to go maybe a month or more without Dante DiVincenzo. That's coming up tonight at 6:30. And the Minnesota women are worth watching. They are ranked in the top 25. The Gophers welcome in Michigan, 7 o'clock tonight on Big Ten Network Plus, if you want to check that one out. And Gophers have some highly talented players on their roster. We got to roll. Our thanks to Dave Richman for joining us, to John Ammerman and Drew Trafton. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com and watch a full replay on WDAY+. The Bison Media Zone is coming up in just a few minutes. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mic. Thanks for watching, everybody.